So a lot happened in the world of wrestling last weekend, but now that the dust is settled, let's take a look at the highlights. The Rock and Triple H are beefing like it's 2000, the John Cena heel turn has failed so badly that it's turned Cody Rhodes heel in the process, Roman Reigns, John Cena, Logan Paul, Nick Khan, and Triple H all made themselves look like idiots, and the Raw after Mania was apparently so good it made everyone forget about any of the other stuff. However, there was some stuff that happened last weekend that was far more important than anything I just mentioned, and deserves far more attention and airtime. And that's the fact that last weekend, pro wrestling died. Now that may sound hyperbolic, and I'm not gonna lie, it does make for a good clickbait title, but it's not entirely far from the truth. Everyone knew going in that something felt a little different about this Mania weekend. What was once the showcase of the world's best independent talent has lost its luster over time, given that the independent scene, through a toxic cocktail of WWE and AEW's competition hoovering up all the name talent, as well as speaking out in the COVID-19 pandemic, the indies aren't quite what it was, and with AEW pulling its presence out of the weekend completely, and highlights like GCW and Bloodsport featuring more and more WWE talent, it no longer really feels like the showcase of the independent scene at all. Now don't get me wrong, that presence is still there. The likes of Deadlock, Dragon Gate USA, Defy, and others held down the mantle for the independents last weekend, but the feeling can't quite be shaken that something's just not quite the same. Returning to GCW for a second, its participation in the WWE ID tournament is exactly the opposite of what the spirit of WrestleMania weekend, once dubbed Wrestling Week by Drew McIntyre, is all about. It's fascinating to me how so many companies fail to learn from history when it comes to working with WWE. Time after time, we've seen companies crumble under the weight of their affiliation with the Fed, pretending like it's a two-way relationship when it's far more of the abusive ones John Cena keeps talking about. For evidence of that, check the UK scene and compare it to the mid-2010s, or for a more recent example, Joe Hendry in TNA's treatment at WrestleMania. The more indies give WWE a seat at the table, the more inches you give them, the more miles they'll take, taking advantage of these promotions to highlight and hoover up their talent and potentially their assets to ensure that WWE becomes the only game in town once again. At least with AEW and their affiliated promotions, there is no hint of AEW attempting to stop promotions out or intentionally hurt them for their own game. It's the healthiest possible version of these kinds of relationships, which WWE has no interest in ever engaging in. But for some reason, companies like GCW or Josh Barnett's one-off Bloodsport shows will continue to highlight WWE talent and work with them despite the fact there's only one way this has ever ended, and that's with the World Wrestling Federation on top. One need only look at the other major development during Mania weekend to see more concrete evidence of this. If you somehow didn't see or hear this, over the weekend WWE announced the purchase of Mexican wrestling stalwart AAA, in a move celebrated by the company as a massive acquisition which will serve to celebrate the legacy of Lucha Libre and not what it actually is, which is WWE's latest vindictive attempt to grow its worldwide wrestling influence and its endless desire for monopolization. Need further convincing? Well, a report from Cultaholic stated that WWE has discussed rebranding AAA to fucking NXT Mexico, a return to the global localization strategies with which Triple H sought to implement in the 2010s, planting NXT bases worldwide to further WWE's reach in global markets. Voices of Wrestling described this perfectly by saying that WWE, having failed to set up these NXT bases previously, are back in the business of buying companies because these pre-existing organizations have already done the work for them. These are pre-existing products with built-in audiences, licensing, and in some cases TV deals, media libraries, and connections which WWE can use to the benefit of, you guessed it, WWE. It's what they did when they tried to buy Rev Pro in the UK, when they tried to buy Pro Wrestling Noah in Japan. Hell, when they tried to buy Ring of Honor in the US before AEW beat them to the punch. It's all a part of this larger homogenization of the industry, where the more power a single identity has over an entire industry, the more and more the industry begins to look like that one entity, and that's what WWE wants. WWE wants all of pro wrestling to be like WWE, which means all the power and wealth concentrated at the very top, with no wiggle room for competition or fresh creativity, because it's all run by one place. That's why I say wrestling died last weekend, because the purchase of AAA isn't just a massive blow to the legacy, history, and prestige of Lucha Libre, but also a massive blow to wrestling in its entirety, because the more WWE hoovers up, the more and more companies which WWE decides to target, the more global localization becomes a realized idea, and the less variety and freedom we'll see in this industry. And again, like Voices of Wrestling put it, this could be your favorite company next. It happened here in the UK with a plethora of promotions like Progress, ICW, WXW in Europe. All companies who bowed at the altar of WWE came out all the worse for it. It's happening in Mexico now with AAA, so what makes you think your favorite company isn't next? So the next time your promotion sidles up to WWE, fucking let them know about it, because it's in their best interest to keep their fucking distance, because you never know how much the looming presence of global localization is going to change wrestling for you, for us, and for everyone. Thanks for watching. That's my little rant on WWE and last fucking WrestleMania weekend. Let me know what you thought of the video in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe for more, and I will see you in the next one. Oh, bye-bye.